The following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Filmjitsu, the podcast that wields films like deadly weapons. We are your hosts. I am Mike.
And I am Jay.
On this week's episode of Filmjitsu, we are getting grateful as Jason spends some time with the 2008, I guess we're going to call it a movie, ThanksKilling. We're also going to spend time doing our bottom 5 high concept films. We'll play a little pick 2, kick 2, and then Jason gets to deliver one final kick in the giblets before Christmas rolls around. But before all that, let's go ahead and roll the trailer for ThanksKilling.
Kick in the giblets.
Guys, I was thinking, since it's Thanksgiving and all that, we should go around and say what we're thankful for.
I'm thankful that your mom has the juiciest poon in town.
Back in the 1500s, in the settlement of Crawlberg, an old Indian by the name of Feathercloud necromanced a turkey that would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. To kill.
I'm gonna drink your blood like cranberry sauce, meanie.
You don't believe me, do you?
I do believe
You kids are retarded. Gobble gobble, motherfucker. Now that's what I call foul play.
Jason, in this season of thanks and gratitude, a time that I wanted to reflect on the things that I am thankful and grateful for, which turns out is mostly just like you and chicken wings, I think. I wanted to find a way to say thank you to you for the year that we've had, the good times, the fun, the episodes that have just been getting better. And I couldn't think of a way to do that with more gratitude in my heart than to make you watch ThanksKilling, a movie that I know almost nothing about other than the fact that it has, I'm pretty sure, a talking turkey puppet. And I don't know that I need to really have a whole lot more to say about the film. It was kind of just about having a goofy time here at the holidays. And it seems like, at least on that count, I succeeded.
Yes, you succeeded in presenting me with something to watch for the holiday.
Oh,
there you go. Well done.
Okay. All right.
It's thematically appropriate for the holiday. Is it a good film? Absolutely not. It's a puppet. It's a talking turkey puppet that kills people. And that's really all that ThanksKilling is about, truthfully. Look, you're in trouble when the first thing you see in this movie is a title card that just says, "In olden times." And then right afterward, the first thing you see right after that is a topless pilgrim woman who's just running through the woods, and she's attacked by the hand puppet turkey. And it says, "Hey bitch, nice tits."
Hold on. I have some questions already. Number one, if she's running through the woods without a shirt on, how do you know she's a pilgrim lady? Does she have like a hat or like buckle shoes?
Yes,
what are we?
She's got the whole pilgrim outfit other than her boobs are hanging out.
This is this is like a very Santo Thanksgiving is what it is.
Well, to be honest, this is the best part of the movie.
Okay.
So, I mean, and it's funny because the woman playing the topless pilgrim, who's named Wanda Lust, she's the top billed actress in the film, despite this being her only scene.
Oh, she gets the Drew Barrymore treatment.
So I think this is like, it's the star power she's packing from such well-known titles as Bust-a-Nut 5 and Cock-Smoking Grannies. It's the cast is in order of appearance. So it's not that. But I was caught off guard when the first thing I saw was Wanda Lust's name on IMDb, and it did give me pause.
We are brushing up against a line that we haven't quite crossed yet on this program, but maybe this was the closest we've come so far.
maybe you've not brushed against this line or gone over this line, but I've certainly tread around this line with some
in
of
your
our
private
earlier
life,
discussions.
most certainly.
Oh, for God's sakes.
This is a big part of why I gave you this film, honestly, is that
Mm-hmm.
all kidding aside,
Yeah,
something like ThanksKilling
right.
and its low budget, zany idea really does seem like something that would be in your wheelhouse. Like, can I out Santo? That's what I was going for.
I recognized this movie in many ways. And what I saw was myself in my mid-20s, early 20s, when I used to make films with my friends. We used to make these improvisational short films, meaning we would just go out with a camera and a handful of friends and make it up as we went along.
Mm-hmm.
And ThanksKilling certainly has that vibe all the way through. It's shot with available lighting, usually. It's really woefully bad sound. It's bad editing. It's bad acting. It's bad everything. And it's identifiably awful in a way that only people who have worked at that level would be able to recognize.
Yeah.
Most people probably can't stomach just how cheap this movie is. I mean, it was made for $3,500.
Wow.
$3,500. The sequel, ThanksKilling 3, because there is no ThanksKilling 2.
Oh, really?
There's just ThanksKilling 3. Yeah, exactly. It was made for almost $200,000. So a huge jump in production value and in obviously still no money, but way, way more. And I think that the fact that the movie jumped from ThanksKilling to ThanksKilling 3 tells you a lot about the sense of humor of these filmmakers.
Sure.
Thanksgiving break! Yes! Yes! Damn, Billy. Cover those puppies up. No one can see your nasty titties. Woo.
I'm trying to get Allie to show her big old tigger.
All right.
Yeah! Spring break, guys. Let's get wasted.
Pull your shirt down, honey. It's Thanksgiving, not Titsgiving.
The movie jumps forward into present day, where we're presented with an odd assortment of high school acquaintances, or maybe they're college age, I'm not sure. Because there's one dude that looks like he's 30. So they're all going off together in like the star quarterback's Jeep for Thanksgiving break. I guess he's just offered them all a ride. You've got the driver. His name's Johnny. He's a second string QB. You've got Kristen. She's the sweet, innocent girl next door who sort of likes Johnny. You've got Allie. She's the promiscuous girl who flashes her bra at the guys literally seconds after being introduced.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was funny because she's second credited in the film. So now you've got Wanda Lust, and then you've got Natasha Cordova right behind her who plays Allie. So I was like, oh, that's how you get top billing in these films. Next, you've got Billy. He's this big, dumb buffoon of a guy who seems nice enough when he's just not being a dick.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Darren, stereotypical nerdy guy who keeps wiping his mouth with his hand. And like I say, he looks at youngest 30 years old. The hairline is a big, big giveaway.
So this is basically every van ride out to Crystal Lake that you've ever seen in every Friday the 13th. Like it's this cast.
Yeah. And by design, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
And at least you can give it credit for that. It doesn't have the production value. It doesn't have the talent. It doesn't really have much of anything other than this insane puppet and some dubbing by the film's director himself.
The director played the puppet?
Yeah, Jordan Downey is the director. And he honestly, if there's one thing to say good about the whole endeavor, it's the fact that he imbues enough personality in the turkey that when the turkey comes back on screen, you're actually relieved. Because if I go back to my early filmmaking days, I said we made short films.
Uh-huh.
They probably maxed out at about 25 minutes or so. The joy and the fun that you see in my early films,
Yep.
where I'm having a great time with friends being creative and coming up with something fun is evident in spots throughout ThanksKilling where you can see that these dudes were just having a great time.
Yeah.
But then it's a feature-length movie. And by feature, I use quotes because it's 66 minutes long.
Yep.
But I tell you, Mike, this is the longest 66 minutes I've ever experienced. I had to watch this movie in 3 sittings.
Yeah, I figured that might be the case.
It is painful in between those little moments of joy and fun and absurdist comedy. And that's where this movie excels.
Mm-hmm.
It's when they're having fun and when they're being absurd. And there is a lot of absurdity here. It just looking at the storyline. Let's go back. The crew in the Jeep end up stranded, and they soon discover they're in the town called Crawburg, which I guess it's infamous, or at least according to Darren, for the most ridiculous legend this side of a Republican health care plan. Apparently, a Native American shaman sought revenge on a specific pilgrim named Chuck Langston. Yes, a pilgrim named Chuck.
I am positive there were no pilgrims named Chuck. There was Charles. I'll give you Charles. There was no Chuck.
There was no Chuck. And what's more is this Chuck Langston, who this shaman wanted revenge on, Billy in this group is a direct descendant of him. There is nothing done with this information whatsoever. It plays no role in this story at all. The shaman put his soul into a dead turkey using necromancy or something like that.
So like he child's plays a turkey.
Correct.
Okay.
That is absolutely right. And then apparently once every 505 years, no idea why 505 years, he's supposed to come back and go on a killing spree. Thing is, they're nowhere near 505 years at this point. So Darren tells them there's nothing to fear. But then there's this random scene where an old man in the woods is walking his dog, and his dog urinates on a miniature totem pole. And like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, evil is roused by canine piss.
Okay. Canine piss will get you every time. I'm just absolutely positive that our last election can be attributed to canine piss. That's how you get what you get there.
This sounds accurate. This is accurate. Anyway, out comes Turkey, spelled Turkie. That is the entity that is Turkey. Talking smack like he was born in Brooklyn or something. This is not a Native American shaman. This is someone that's completely well-versed in modern vernacular. He comes out, he murders all these people, including Kristen's father, who's a small town sheriff. Kristen's like that cute girl next door type. At one point, they seek refuge at the dad's house. So they come. Turkey answers the door wearing her dad's face as a mask, and no one notices.
Hello, sweetie. How are you?
Daddy, you look different. Oh, you got a haircut.
Yeah. Aren't you going to introduce me to your friends?
Of course. This is Johnny.
Hey, how you doing?
And Darren.
Happy Thanksgiving, Sheriff.
And Billy.
How are you guys?
Dad, we need to use your collection of books. Would you mind showing us to the garage?
Of course. Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, where is it again, honey?
Oh, Dad, you and your rapidly fading memory.
This reminds me of an episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 90s where Casey Jones has to like infiltrate this corrupt business. So he goes for an interview, but he's wearing the hockey mask and still has like his hockey sticks with him.
100%.
And he gets the job. He still gets the job. Like they don't notice that he's wearing a hockey mask to his job interview with a suit, and he gets the job.
This was a very funny sequence.
Yeah.
Like she actually hugs her quote unquote dad,
who doesn't have arms,
who is a turkey, and kisses the disgusting, gross face that's on the turkey's head. It's incredible. There's another moment right after that, actually, that shows a little bit more of that absurdity that's sort of fun about the movie, where they have a montage sequence where they're looking for this book that's going to give them a ritual that's going to get rid of turkey. And it's a stupid montage. Just, now the camera just pans across one thing, pans across another thing. People look like they're invested in whipping through books, and, Johnny, the quarterback kid, and Kristen are looking at each other and making eyes and whatever. And then it ends. And Darren, I think it was, the nerd kid, says, "Oh, finally, I found it," like that. And out of nowhere, Kristen, with this wit, goes, "That was only 5 minutes." Like that. It was just so good. So they do have these moments, but they're so few and far between all of this other stuff that is so painfully written. And sometimes their jokes do not land. Like when Turkey disrupts Allie, the quote unquote promiscuous girl, and her boyfriend, like they were doing it like they do on the Discovery Channel.
Uh-huh.
Fully clothed, by the way.
We can't all be Wanda Lust.
Fair enough. Turkey comes in, kills the guy, and then takes over from behind on Allie.
Oh, no.
And after coming like an actor in Bust a Nut 5, he yells,
"You just got stuffed!"
Wait, how is the turkey killing people? I should have asked this at the beginning.
It pecks people? Well, weirdly enough, it breaks Allie's neck.
Okay.
Which was hilarious because it was almost like the hand that's in the puppet just grabbed her neck and went. So the movie is not making any effort whatsoever to explain really anything that's going on with the turkey.
Sure. Because why should it? The tagline for this movie was "Gobble, gobble, motherfucker." Like, are we in straight up parody territory?
I sort of wish that we were. It's not smart enough, or there isn't enough effort put in for it to be considered a parody.
So we're not in scary movie territory here.
No, we're just in a lazy early 20s messing around with a camcorder in their parents' house. What's funny about this is that these guys are moving on to actual careers. Writer-director Jordan Downey had directed the most recent Critters sequel.
Oh, wow.
And he did one of the shorts in this year's edition of the VHS anthology series, VHS Beyond, working alongside actor Justin Long, who had helmed one of the other 6 segments. And co-writer and cinematographer of ThanksKilling, Kevin Stewart, when he's not shooting Downey's movies, he's been working on some higher profile stuff, including the Unfriended sequel, Unfriended Dark Web.
Oh, wow. Which is a good film, by the way.
So it's not like this didn't help them. It did.
Yeah.
It got them pushed forward into actual career territory. There are people out there who appreciate this thing. It's just that I'm probably not one of them, which is a bit of a surprise, because I would think I would be one of the most tolerant people of this kind of filmmaking.
I assumed that you sure would be. And I guess I'm a little bit curious about that too, because one of my big questions is, how did this film ever see the light of day? Because like you said, friends out making a movie for fun. You did that numerous times, had a great time. Lots and lots of people do that, but it never goes anyplace. There's not a lot of Thanksgiving horror out there. There's somehow more now than there used to be, but there's not a lot of that out there. And I don't know if it was like just the right thing at just the right time that it raised eyebrows with enough audiences that word of mouth got out.
Or it could have been that metal soundtrack and the fans of that group thought that this was a fucking riot.
Yeah.
We don't really know what that was without doing heavier research. The movie wasn't entertaining enough for me to really spend as much time as I've already spent talking about it. So maybe there is a really great story about how Jordan Downey and Kevin Stewart were able to launch their careers with this thing. That's awesome. I'm not the guy to tell that story.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is that this was a painful watch. It took a long time to make my way through it, and I'm glad it's over with now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jason, believe it or not, this was kind of a hard film to come up with a bottom 5 for, because
Turkeys?
Bottom 5 turkeys?
We've already done puppets, so...
Puppets?
Right.
I guess, I don't know if I could give you bottom...
Tits?
Yeah, I mean, that's a top 5 list every day of the week, right?
Right, there you go.
But what I came up with for this was our bottom 5 high concept films.
Yeah.
Because if this movie is anything, it's a high concept film, which is, of course, a movie that's easily explained with a kind of a quick elevator pitch on its central premise, right?
Right.
We've come up against a lot of high concept films already on Filmjitsu. The Happy Time Murders, a noir film, but it's puppets. Hardcore Henry, an action movie that's entirely shot in first person POV. And of course, I think the inaugural winner of Best Picture at the Jitsus, Time Cop, where a cop travels in time. And so I often reference things like Velocipaster on this show.
Yeah.
And my position is that sometimes the high concept is enough and you don't actually need to make the film.
Oh, okay.
But I'm curious on how you approached it, because you said kind of going in, everything you can kind of make a pitch for easily enough. So
everything is high concept. Almost everything is a high concept. And most of it is awful. So it felt like we were just talking about bad films. So I started looking in peculiar places for movies that personally don't work for me. Some of these are bad movies with good concepts, and some of them are just shitty concepts. So with all that out of the way, I'll start with my number 5. And that is, and I'm going to get a lot of hate mail about this one, 1971's A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, wow. I did not see that coming.
The way that I know I'm contrarian when it comes to Kubrick in general, but this is an infuriating movie for me.
Okay.
The high concept is actually pretty fascinating. Make the audience care about a horrifically vile protagonist. This is really what it is. That's your elevator pitch. But there are several other high concepts at work in this, this allegedly classic film. There's how little value is held by an authoritarian government for the good of an individual or even society. Something we're going to learn a lot about more and more over the next 4 years. There's also this entire idea about reforming problematic individuals versus reprogramming them. But again, the high concept, I think, that comes out of Kubrick's controversial adaptation of the controversial Anthony Burgess novel, and this concept's a doozy, is the idea of creating a reprehensible protagonist for the story and then forcing the audience to sympathize with him. And that's a hell of an experiment.
Yeah, sure.
And it's one that's really in line with Kubrick's frequent desire to involve the viewer as an active participant in the story he's telling.
Yeah.
But in this film, everything is just so fucking theatrical, nonsensical, heinously violent, boring, and riddled with plot convenience that by the end of it, you're exhausted and you're confused and, in my case, fed up with the pretension of the whole endeavor, which seems so overly pleased with itself. It wants to condemn violence, but by turning everything into nearly black comedy, it robs the violence and the consequences of Alex's action of any weight.
Yeah.
So what you end up with is a bunch of people talking in these seemingly endless, beautifully framed shots about all sorts of big ideas, and none of it seems to mean a damn thing. It's a ponderous, occasionally upsetting bore, and it fails to make me sympathize with Alex because it doesn't care about him. It doesn't care about what he did.
Right.
And it doesn't care about who he is any more than the authoritarian government that's trying to correct him. So that's my case. I'm sure a lot of people will be like, Jesus, that's a reach. It's not. This is a crap film with neat concepts, multiple high concepts, and it fails. But it's Kubrick, and it's fascinating, and even his failures are masterpieces. So it lands at my number 5.
Yeah. Yep. I think you managed to both convince me and not convince me simultaneously, which is that I think you're absolutely right about the way that you break down the film. I guess I wouldn't hold those truths against the film enough to put it on a bottom 5, but I get why you did. I think it makes sense if that's the way that you look at it. It's also a film that I don't love. I see it for what it is. I think I can appreciate it for what it is. It's a hard watch, but there's never really a time where I'm hanging out and being like, you know what I need to put on? Like, I haven't sat down and really enjoyed A Clockwork Orange in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I think my number 5 is at the back of the list because it's probably the granddaddy of them all. And it's perhaps the most obvious. It's Snakes on a Plane.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
From 2006, this is a movie about snakes on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a more line drive up the middle description of a movie than that. And I'll tell you, I was as excited as anybody when this thing came out. There were all the stories leading up about how Samuel L. Jackson insisted on adding the now classic line,
I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane.
And so like people went to the theater kind of waiting to hear the thing happen that they all wanted to happen, which I don't love the idea of movies being made based on what the audience wants before the film. But I think I've been in a lot of packed movie theaters, and I can tell you that there have been very few times that I've experienced an audience pop as big as that moment. It's pretty much this and when Captain America yells, Avengers Assemble in Endgame. The problem is, as amazing as this high concept is, I've actually watched the movie.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
It's awful.
It's a really bad movie. The novelty wears off almost immediately. And outside of Sam Jackson yelling profanity, there's not a decent performance within 1,000 miles of this thing. The CGI is dreadful. So apart from Sam's one line, there's about an hour and 44 other minutes of this movie that I definitely didn't need in my life. So at number 5, for me, it's Snakes on a Plane. It's obvious, but it's accurate.
Yes, exactly. And it's very similar to ThanksKilling in that. Should be a blast. It's not. My number 4 is Terminator Genesis. So the high concept Terminator, but within a multiverse. Let's just reboot the already challenging time travel saturated world of the Terminator by introducing a multiverse angle, reenacting several scenes of the original Terminator with different actors. They replaced Bill Paxton. And then, in a fit of truly nonsensical audacity, sorry, I'm going to drop a spoiler for this 2015 movie right now. Fast forward 10 seconds if you want to. They decide to make John Connor, the savior of humanity, the bad guy.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of gripes with this flick. It's not just that they replaced Bill Paxton. It's that they replaced the entire lead cast. Reese, Sarah, John. Now they're all different actors who, try as they might, can't match the memorable near icon status of those original performers, except for John, because thank God they didn't bring back either Ed Furlong or Nick Stahl. It's too much as a movie, a plot pretzel to make sense. The story just crashes and burns so spectacularly that an entire trilogy and a TV spinoff of multiverse Terminator stories collapsed under the weight of Genesis's failure. So I think that this is a quality choice for my number 4. A high concept reboot Terminator with an alternate, not timeline, but an alternate universe with new characters and new things. But what's hilarious is the T-800 is still Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Always.
And he's
Always.
named Pops.
Oh, that's right. They call him Pops in that one. Good Lord.
Oh, God.
This is one of the very few instances where you and I do not fight about a Terminator movie.
True. It's a good
we
point.
have finally found the one Terminator place where our two timelines converge. You're dead ass right about that. That's for sure.
Should be called Terminator Détente.
Well, call me crazy, but when you hear about a high concept and you get excited about a high concept, you should actually be given that high concept. I don't think it's too much to ask. So when a high concept movie fails to deliver, what you end up with is The Purge.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It is not what it says it is.
Assholes told me I was getting a movie where one night of the year, all crime was legal. And while that's technically what happens, it's a far cry from what that concept promises. This shit should have been wall-to-wall carnage. I'm talking like Michael Bay on Four Loko, unhinged mayhem. It should look like American Gladiators on bath salts out in those streets. But instead, we get a handful of obnoxious, sweaty goobers holed up in a McMansion just trying to run out the clock on The Purge, and by extension, the goddamn movie. It's full of clunky exposition and ham-fisted social satire. Some of the most ham-fisted social satire you have ever seen in your life. And I came here to watch machete-wielding maniacs peel off faces and smash cars with baseball bats while Iron Maiden blares in the background of an exploding fireworks factory. Why am I listening to Ethan Hawke talk about things? I want my goddamn Purge. So listen, we just elected President Purge and I'm a little bit raw over it. So you can't forgive a high concept movie called The Purge if there isn't actually a whole lot of purging. It took this thing 2 more swings to get it right. By the time the third Purge rolls around, we finally get, I think, a Purge, but I was already checked out based on the failure of the first one. And so from 2013, my number 4 is The Purge for having no Purge.
Don't force us to hurt you. We don't want to kill our own. Please just let us purge.
My number 3 is Ghost Ship. I mean, here's your high concept. Ghost Ship. 2 words. Shortest elevator pitch possible. I mean, I guess you could say it was a derelict cruise ship that's found years later after it's lost and it's haunted by a boatload of ghosts. Literally, a boatload. Somehow, a post-ER Juliana Margulies, a post The Usual Suspects Gabriel Byrne, a post Xena and Hercules Carl Urban signed up for this mess. And it's not that this one's a bad idea. I actually like the premise of this one.
Okay.
But for me, it's the absolute game changer of that cold open in this thing, which has been indelibly imprinted in my mind since I saw it over 20 years ago.
Wow.
It's probably one of the most memorable scenes I've ever witnessed in a theater. It robbed my lungs of air. But then the rest of this film is just so very boring. It's an old And Then There Were None, played out in a conventionally creepy, haunted set. And while I'm beyond thankful for the appearance of a nude Francesca Retondini, who may be in the top 3 most gorgeous women to have ever graced the silver screen, one magnificent Italian actress cannot a movie make. I'm looking at you, Matrix Revolutions. There was probably no way for Ghost Ship to do anything as sophisticated, surprising, or as horrifying as its opening scene. So it's entirely possible that its disappointment for shooting its shot way too soon, it's the equivalent of cinematic premature ejaculation. But with a cast as good as this one, it could have been a high seas surprise, like the Treat Williams starring Deep Rising, instead of being a mid-level ghost story with way too many bad visual effects, a la Jan de Bont's The Haunting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's simply too bad, because were this thing able to go the distance, we could have had a classic on our hands. So at number 3, it's almost like the high concept that should have been and almost was, and then just flat out failed.
For a guy who said he had a hard time with this list, you're kind of killing it. I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't know about that. I don't know. What's your number 3?
Bitch, it's Hotel for Dogs. That's it. Hotel for Dogs.
There's really nothing else to say, is
yeah,
there?
Get it? Do you get it? Imagine a people hotel, but now it's a hotel for dogs. Just think of all the stuff you know about hotels. Imagine room service, but it's for dogs. Imagine housekeeping, but it's for dogs. I bet the room's going to be a wicked mess by the end because instead of people, it's dogs.
Oh my God. This is really, see, another problem with this was that I haven't seen a lot of bad high concept films.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this whole genre of what I call amber high concept films that are sci-fi.
Uh-huh.
Things like Limitless.
Yes.
And Jumper and Push.
I had Limitless on this list 3 different times and took it off.
They're the same movie. They're all interchangeable. They're
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And even that one that with Angelina Jolie that you hate, right? That's another one.
Wanted?
Was it called Wanted?
Wanted, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever it was. I mean, all of those movies are so interchangeable that I just was like, I don't watch any of them and I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
They all couldn't be on my list.
Yeah.
But if you look up a list of bad high concept movies, they are on every single one of them.
Yeah. Well, also, just last goddamn week when I had to watch 9 Lives, Kevin Spacey as a cat, that's the same kind of thing as this Hotel for Dogs, because that's a whole other subgenre of high concept, right? Like
animals.
People
right.
and animals, or animals doing people things.
Correct.
In Hotel for Dogs, these kids are trying to get all the strays off the street, so they put them up in an abandoned hotel. There are dog catchers. There's nosy neighbors. I'll let you take a wild fucking guess whether or not by the end everyone comes to love the Hotel for Dogs and it becomes a big legitimate fancy hotel, but for dogs. The only reason this isn't higher on my list is because mercifully, as almost proof that there is a God, these dogs don't talk. And
thank God.
Oh yeah, like thank the Mayflower for that, at least. So, but Hotel for, and this movie was given to me as a goddamn goof by a friend of ours who was like, well, now you own Hotel for Dogs. And then I had kids who were like, can we watch Hotel for Dogs?
Oh God.
Yeah. So
that's
usually
how it
this
happened?
is the kind of thing. Yep. I would never have come across this on my own, obviously, because it's goddamn Hotel for Dogs, but nope, I watched it. So the only good to ever come from me watching is getting to talk about it right now as number 3 on my list. It wasn't worth it. It was not worth it for all that, but here it is just the same. So that is my number 3. Bitch, it's Hotel for Dogs.
I thought that was the name of the title at first. Bitch, it's...
That's probably the sequel. I bet that's the sequel. Hotel for Dogs 2. Bitch, this time it's personal.
It's an edgy sequel.
Yep. It's just called Bitch. That's the sequel. Bitch. Or it's just Motel for Dogs. And all the dogs have fallen on hard times. And it's like the Florida Project, except it's dogs. That's what it is. That's my high concept film. Florida Project, but it's dogs.
Perfect.
Willem Dafoe could still be in it.
From DreamWorks Pictures.
I'd like to call in and complain about a howling dog.
We're close. I'm hearing something. And Nickelodeon Movies.
Do you know what happens if we get caught in here?
When the secret gets out.
Do you really think you could outsmart us?
Rather not answer that question.
The chase.
Officer, would you please arrest these young felons right now?
Is on. Hotel for Dogs.
That has to be the grossest thing I've ever seen.
My number 2 is either Space Jam or Space Jam: A New Legacy. It's up to you.
I haven't seen the new one. Why would I?
The high concept is an NBA superstar Michael Jordan plays basketball with the Looney Tunes, or in the second one, NBA superstar LeBron James has to play basketball with the Looney Tunes to save his son. At least there was this little bit of a hook in the second movie. The first movie, they were trying to like get their freedom or something like that, the Looney Tunes. Whatever. What Bugs Bunny has to do with basketball, I'll never understand. And yet somehow 2 mega huge budgeted flicks featuring a combination of live action and animation are about NBA superstars having to play basketball with the likes of Wile E. Coyote, Daffy Duck, and Lola Bunny, who, as you may remember, caused an uproar because her outfit wasn't as skimpy in the second movie as the first one.
Right.
Can you imagine outing yourself as that level of incel?
I cannot imagine. That's like, it's bananas to me.
Like somehow your pent-up sexual frustrations run so deep that you care how high-cut a cartoon character's shirt is.
A cartoon rabbit.
A cartoon rabbit, not even a human. That's right. Anyway, these movies are sort of entertaining and absolutely awful. I adore the Looney Tunes. I was always more of a Warner Brothers guy than a Disney fan. But the excessive IP parade happening in these movies.
Yeah.
When the Shining twins and Neo and Trinity from The Matrix showed up as spectators in A New Legacy, I was almost as pulled out of the flick as when Bill Murray joined the team in the original Space Jam. It's cute, sure, but it's also a manipulation of an audience's adoration of superstars and characters that, by proxy, will somehow elevate this completely brain-dead premise about a high-stakes basketball game played by cartoons and featuring the best players the game has ever seen who cannot act like at all. It's no wonder that the first Space Jam was directed by a guy known mostly for Pepsi commercials, Joe Pytka, while the second one, directed by Malcolm D. Lee, it's from the guy that brought us Scary Movie 5 and Barbershop, The Next Cut.
Sometimes a high concept, although the concept is high, the film can still be down in the gutter. And we should be careful not to confuse high concept with high art, as evidenced by my last 3 picks. A high concept film can certainly be, and often is, trashy. That's absolutely the case with my number 2. I'm going with the animated film from writers Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
Oh.
It's Sausage Party.
I've heard about this, but I've never even thought to watch this.
Thank goodness for you. It's a Pixar-style animated film about anthropomorphic food, but it's all the raunchiest, hard-R, gross-out humor you can imagine. The hot dogs are dicks. The buns are, well, buns. I'm sure you can imagine what the fucking mayonnaise is. There is hardly a single spoken line of dialogue in this whole movie that doesn't include the words shit or fuck, usually both. It's juvenile and stupid, which is something I can enjoy as much as anyone else if it's done well. Like the Netflix show Big Mouth, which our sometimes producer Nick Phaneuf has called the Sistine Chapel of Filth. But in Sausage Party, it's honestly just so exhausting. And I am the most exhausting person I know. So if I'm telling you that it's just way over the top bullshit, you can take that to the high concept bank, which now that I hear myself say that out loud, that's a concept idea that maybe I could go for, the high concept bank. It's like a bank, but for dogs. That's maybe what I'm thinking. So Sausage Party is pretty much unwatchable after the first 10 minutes. It's maybe the best example on my list of an idea that's funny to bullshit around about at a party with your friends, but definitely didn't need to get actually made into a movie people would pay money for. I hate it. I hope no one ever sees it. Brought to you by Seth Rogen's marijuana-addled mind, Sausage Party is my number 2.
Yeah, Banana's whole face peeled off. Peanut Butter's wife is dead. Look at him, he's right there.
Hey! I'm gonna fix you. I'm gonna fix this.
You think I give a fuck about PB or J? Fuck this. I'm gonna kick your ass. How you like them apples?
Who, us?
Well, my number 1 is also truly, truly awful. And it is a film called Movie 43 from 2013.
Oh.
It's directed by way too many people to name, but the number of people that are listed as director includes Elizabeth Banks, Griffin Dunn, Brett Ratner, and Peter Farrelly. I would say the movie is essentially the fault of a producer named Charles B. Wessler, who has almost exclusively worked on Peter Farrelly movies, but also he's the sole credited producer on It's Pat. So just take that to the bank for dogs.
No way.
High concept here. It's about a filmmaker trying to sell high concept film ideas. You hear that silence?
Yeah, my brain, it took a minute for me to like rattle that around in there.
No, that silence is what you're feeling when you watch this quote unquote comedy and a joke flies at you. And then it's that silence that we just experienced. The terrible high concept here is that it is truly a movie about terrible high concepts. It's in stars such as Emma Stone and Dennis Quaid, Lev Schreiber, Hugh Jackman, Kate Winslet. They were all basically badgered, guilted, and beaten down to star in this turd. Richard Gere has actually tried to disown his involvement completely. The short films of this anthology, they're held together by a wraparound segment starring Dennis Quaid, who plays a fictional version of the producer, Charles Wessler.
I had no idea that's what this movie was about.
That's what this movie's about. He pulls a gun on a movie producer, played by Greg Kinnear, while pitching his stories. And all the stories that he's pitching are all the individual short films that are tied together within Movie 43.
Wow.
This is the movie in which Hugh Jackman goes on a date with Kate Winslet and reveals he wears a scarf because he has a pair of testicles growing out of his neck.
I did not know that.
Did Charles B. Wessler ever work again in Hollywood after making this film?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you better believe it. 2 years later, he would stand on stage at the 91st Academy Awards.
Really?
When the film Green Book, which he produced, won the Best Picture Oscar. The producer of It's
That
Pat
explains so much.
Stood up and accepted a Best Picture Oscar.
Pick one, kick one. It's Pat or Green Book.
It's Pat.
I knew it.
Good old androgynous Pat. Pat's always cheerful and androgynous with everybody.
For my number 1, Jay, I've actually backed myself into a corner. I sat down and watched a movie that I hadn't seen yet just so I could put it on my list at number 1.
Too.
I was positive it would make my list.
Yeah.
And it turns out I was right. It would be my number 1, but the story doesn't end there because this movie was so bad that it is now on my short list for a full Filmjitsu episode.
Oh, dear.
So you'll be watching my number 1 high concept film sometime in early 2025. Buckle your ass for that shit show. Anyway, what you're going to get here is my substitute pick, but that doesn't mean that it's less deserving. You know how I talk a lot about how I never walk out of movies? Well, my number 1 is on the extremely short list of movies that I paid for and walked out of. In 1996, when I was 15 years old, you know how hard it is to have money when you're 15 in 1996? Like, I had the money. I paid the money. I went to the movie probably with friends. There's definitely wasn't a girl involved. I don't think.
Do you know how hard it is to make something so bad that a 15-year-old knows enough to walk out of the cinema?
And it's like, I know I'm at the movie with my friends, but I'm out right now.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding, because it's when Whoopi Goldberg coaches the New York Knicks in the film Eddie.
Yeah.
There's your high concept. It's supposed to be that the Knicks' number one fan coaches the team, but let's be real, it's Whoopi Goldberg coaches the Knicks.
Wasn't it like Sister Act, but with basketball? Why do we both have a basketball movie on our bottom 5?
Jay, I've seen lots of unfunny things in my life.
Sure.
Lots. Car accidents, family tragedies.
Movie 43.
Unexpected death, right? Nothing quite compares to how monumentally unfunny it is to have Whoopi Goldberg coaching the Knicks. But buried in all that, I will remind you that returning in 2025 is going to be my actual high concept film, because I spent a whole night watching it for this list.
2025 cannot come soon enough. Unlike Ghost Ship, which came way too fast.
Jay, it seemed only reasonable that for a Thanksgiving episode, our Pick 2, Kick 2 should have something to do with food.
Oh, great.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The holiday based around
For
a
sure.
meal. And so I decided that our Pick 2, Kick 2 this year would be films based around a meal.
Okay.
And so here are the 4 films that you have to choose from. Now remember, in Pick 2, Kick 2, you're going to keep 2 of these movies, and 2 of them will be thrown forever into the Phantom Zone.
Mm-hmm.
These might be the 4 most different movies we've done so far.
Oh, okay. Neat.
Here we go. The 4 films you have to choose from are Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Oh, jeez.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Ratatouille.
Oh.
And The Menu.
Oh.
A recent addition.
Yeah. And a really good one, too.
A
Like
really good
one.
one. Uh-huh.
Weirdly enough, and this will upset you, I'm sure, I'm not the biggest fan of Ratatouille.
Really?
Yeah. It's just one of those movies that feels a little like, I was going to say Ratatouille, like Clockwork Orange. but it's one of these movies that's really, really universally loved. WALL-E kind of feels this way for me too, where they're just so universally loved, but they left me feeling a little flat when I saw them. Ratatouille less so than WALL-E. I really didn't get a lot with WALL-E. I didn't find it nearly as impressive or as touching or as emotional or whatever, cute. Ratatouille I found a little bit cuter, but I didn't really care about anything that was going on in the film. So Ratatouille is the easy one out for me. What about you? Do you have an easy one out of those 4?
I don't know that I have an easy one. No, this is hard for me.
Yeah, I could see you really struggling to kick something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is such an icon of horror, period.
Yeah.
You know, what do you have? Psycho, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of the Living Dead. I mean, it is up there in the pantheon.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah,
so it's hard to really knock that out. I would think, especially for you and your horror leanings.
It is hard, but like including Texas Chainsaw Massacre means I'm going to have to lose a really great film at its expense.
Right, but I would argue that if you keep Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you could kick The Menu because it kind of scratches a similar itch.
I don't think I would ever in a sane world try to compare The Menus as being on the level of Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Mm-mm.
they both sit in such a unique space that the idea of not experiencing either one of them again is kind of unbearable to me. So I don't have an easy out on here. And then Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is like, it's a goddamn classic for very good reasons.
Can you even touch that movie?
I don't, that's what I mean. Like, can you even have a conversation? It's important.
That's important cinema.
Right.
So I have to keep Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
I think I do too.
That means that I now have to choose between Chainsaw Massacre and The Menu.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's Chainsaw Massacre. So I end up with Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because to me, those are two absolutely Pantheon level films that had an extraordinary impact all through cinema. I know we talk about the butterfly effect that might result out of the elimination of these, and we generally don't have one. But regardless, I mean, they're just great movies.
Yeah, I think those are my picks too. But I feel like I could sit here and tell you with a straight face that Ratatouille and The Menu are contemporary classics. Like, I think those films aren't going anywhere. I think Ratatouille is a great film for a lot of reasons. And I get if it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea.
Yeah.
I get that. Not everybody responds to those Pixar films the same way. I think that if you didn't get a little dusty at the first 20 minutes of WALL-E, then perhaps, sir, you have a can of cranberry sauce where your heart ought to be. But okay, fine. But I think at the same time, I don't know that I could get rid of Texas Chainsaw or Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Mike, once again, I find myself trying to pull us back into the regular scheduled programming.
Right.
As you have once again thrown us into a holiday mood. You seem to just love holidays. Let's just put it. I mean, you love it. But me, I'm getting these off weeks in between the holidays.
Yeah.
So, and I have to figure out how to fill this time with something unique and different. Well, sir, this next one is not unique. And it's not terribly different. It's not obscure. It's incredibly well known. But it's something that we need to talk about on this show. And that is 1990's Pretty Woman, directed by Gary Marshall.
Oh, man.
Why? Because looking back at this often called, quote, classic with modern eyes, will likely prove out what it's always been. A really gross story about how rich white dudes can buy women and how women define themselves by money.
Are you ready to have your mind blown?
Yeah.
I've never seen Pretty Woman.
What?
I've never seen it. I don't know how.
Oh my God.
I don't know how. I know what it's
this
about.
Is perfect.
I've never actually sat down and watched the film Pretty Woman.
Maybe you'll love it. Most people do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're going to be pretty grossed out. And as a bottom 5, because this movie is so gross and yet beloved, I wanted our bottom 5 to be bottom 5 beloved films.
Okay.
Movies that are universally praised, but upon reflection, actually really aren't very good.
Is your idea here that it's awful because it's problematic, or awful because it's actually just not a good movie and everyone thinks it is?
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Which way you go with it. Yeah.
All right.
I think that if we get too exacting with it, we'll ruin our fun.
So a cornucopia of garbage is what's available to me.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a
bottom 5
cornucopia of well-loved garbage.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be the key. If you try to float something that isn't well-loved, I'm going to call bullshit.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay. Jason, we've done it. We've done it. We've survived this Thanksgiving holiday. Together, we've somehow managed to not yell at each other, not storm out angry. Nobody threw up. That doesn't always happen at Thanksgiving. Sometimes people throw up.
I didn't get in the nap that I really need. but I'm hoping that happens shortly.
Let's do that now.
Yeah, let's just do that now. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, we've been your hosts. I'm Jay. And we'll see you next time.
Stalno mislim na te, hoću znat sve kate, vježbat ću sate i sate. Karate, vježbat ću dok zadnji mi kjaj zostane izađe.
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker. This is exactly what I wanted for you on this holiday. I wanted to make sure that as you were reflecting back on a year well spent and the many blessings that we have received, if this is my twisted and misguided way of saying thank you, I hope that the message was well received.
It wasn't.
You son of a bitch.